Hi everyone, welcome to Daughter Talk. This is Jesselyn, and today I have a special guest with me. I have Anna. She's a really good friend of mine, and I'm just very excited that she's here. Thank you for being the first person on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
So one question I had was, have you ever been on a podcast before?
I have never been on a podcast, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, which is why I'm probably so excited for this opportunity. So I am just so thankful.
Yeah. So what made you say yes to coming on?
Well, I think that you are just an incredible woman with so much on your plate. You're such a busybody, but somehow you give equal and full attention to everything that you do. So I knew that this would be a really good thing for me to help you get started with and kind of set the baseline for what it is that you're trying to do and the ideas that you're trying to create. So again, I'm just thankful to be here as the baseline and hope that you're very successful in this, like all of your other ventures.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I figured at one point I'll probably cry in the podcast, but not yet. I'm trying to hold it together. So,
Okay.
Well, yeah, I'm just excited just because we are really good friends. I think I told you earlier that I'm really excited to just learn more about you and, just about your life and anything to do with your faith, relationship with God. So we can just get into it if you're ready. So really just wanted whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Sure.
Maybe you've prepared something, but anything about your story, we can start, really wherever you want to start.
Well, we'll go through kind of a quick synopsis of how it was growing up and then into adulthood where I'm at now, and then we can go with any questions or anything that you have. I'll try not to bore you all too much. But I grew up in church. My mom was definitely a church goer just because of my grandparents and also my great grandma. I had her around for 22 years, and she was very much so a church-going lady. So I was always involved in it, and it was always the center of our lives and kind of just how we structured our days. My grandma always prayed with me in the morning. We prayed before I went to sleep. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, so I think that helped give me my baseline for faith. But when I was 18, I had the opportunity to move extremely far from my family, over 1,000 miles. So from around Chicago area down to where we're at today, Houston, Texas. That was almost 14 years ago. And when I got here, it was truly a blessing because I wanted to be here. I wanted to come. But I thought that my family wouldn't be supportive. I thought that they would just think I was crazy. I thought that maybe they wouldn't approve. I thought that they'd be worried. And surprisingly, when I actually sat down and talked to my great-grandmother and my grandmother about it, they were so excited for me and just gave me every ounce of confidence that I could have possibly needed to make that move. I actually had a friend who was working as a flight attendant at the time. So I was flying back and forth to see my best friend Zoe, the girl that I grew up being best friends with, childhood best friend. She had moved here with her boyfriend, and I kept coming down to see her every weekend, and it was actually my grandma's that brought it up to me, saying, hey, you like it there. It seems like there's a lot of opportunity for you there. Your friend's doing good there. Like, why don't you just go? And I remember distinctively saying, oh, well, I could never leave you guys. And my great grandma said, by golly, yes, you can. And I'll never forget that. And then that was my great grandma that said that. And then my grandmother said, well, of course you can. Like, you're strong, you're independent, you are led by God. He will never steer you wrong. If you find it in your heart and your soul and in your prayers that this is what's right for you to do, then go do it. You have to live your own life, because our lives are here. That's why we're here. But you're an adult now. You can make your own decisions, and he will never steer you wrong. So I did. I looked for a job. I got down here, started living my life. I was happy with where I was living at. I started making a couple friends through my friend Zoe, and just kind of started living. But the routine was very different. I was actually becoming an adult with a full-time job and a 401k and insurance and all of the adult things that you have to worry about. And I really didn't even consider getting back into a church. I think that I was a little, I will say, put off by my high school experience in my Catholic high school. I grew up Catholic. I know how the environment can be, but my high school was particularly traumatic. I guess just from being bullied by girls, bullied by teachers, just kind of not really taken seriously because my family wasn't one of the bigger donors to the church. And so I was kind of put off to be less than, or like when I did complain about being bullied, it just kind of wasn't taken seriously. And, some days it was to the point where I would be absolutely in tears in my favorite teacher, Mrs. Martin, Wendy Martin. I would be in her room just bawling my eyes out saying, why are they treating me like this? I just don't understand. And we're all supposed to be Christians here together. I just can't understand why these girls would treat somebody like this, and I literally have done nothing to them. So I think that I was a little off put by my high school experience because it was so much church involved and church like, because that was my every single day. So when I moved to Houston, everything was just going so fast. The city is fast. It's a big city. And so I didn't really consider finding a church or being involved with that. Again, I just had a lot going on, but I think that it also goes back to like the high school situation. And then when Zoe and I kind of started to separate our lives, we had two very different lifestyles when it came to Houston. And that's what I always say about small town people moving to big cities, is that anything you look for in a big city, you can find it. So if you're looking for opportunities and a better job and, maybe a family, whatever it is, you can find it. But if you're looking for trouble, you can most definitely find that, and very easily. So again, we kind of took two different paths, and that's when I kind of started to lean on God, I guess, more, because I felt very alone, and I felt very at odds with what I should do. If I should try to push into our friendship harder, or just completely take myself out of that situation and move forward with what I was trying to do in my life. And eventually it got to a point, without going down the rabbit hole and telling all of the stories, it got to a point where I just said, you know what? I'm feeling the need to just pull away from this completely and listen to God and go on his path and let him guide me to whatever it is that's next in my life. And I did go back to my Bible. That's when I started picking up my Bible again, more frequently. I wouldn't say daily, but definitely weekly, and started leaning into that a lot because I did feel so alone. And I know just from my baseline, from my grandmas and from my upbringing, that is where my baseline lies, and that's how I can get back aligned.
Yeah.
So I went back to that baseline and just kept living. I just kept doing the best that I could. I didn't have an idea. I didn't have a plan of what my life was going to look like. I just knew that I was single, I was young, and I needed to make money, and that was what it was. So I just kept looking for the best opportunities, and even though I was a little confused about some of the pathways that he led me on, I just trusted it and went with it. Made a lot of mistakes along the way, but it was again when I was probably 28 that I definitely strayed and just hadn't picked up my Bible in a long time. I really wasn't even thinking about any of that just because I was so stressed out in like a pretty crazy like breakup that I had, and simply put, lost my mind and sold all of my belongings and moved out of the country. And then a year after living outside of the States, living on my savings, I thought to myself, okay, I need to figure out what it is that I want and what God is trying to tell me that he wants for my life. And I came back to the States. I started picking up my Bible again. I started get back into social media because I never really was big on like phone stuff or social media or anything like that. And so I started to follow more like Christian-based things so that it would be a reminder even when I was just like doom scrolling on my phone, trying to find more positive posts instead of just random things that don't even matter. I was trying to truly find purpose in my life for the first time in a long time because I feel like I'd just always been trying to survive. And I put forth those first steps, right? And every night I would just pray and pray. Like, okay, now I know what I want. Now I see what I need to be. I see who I need to be, and I see who I want to be it for. So I'm just going to start living like this purposefully and trying to put myself out there in a dating way, but more purposefully.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, like when I started doing that, like everything just started to weirdly align. Like I got the job that I wanted. I lived in the area that I wanted. Everything just started to fall into place so graciously. And then I ended up getting married to my husband, Diego. And we got married 9 months after meeting. So pretty fast, but you know, we've always said that like when you know, and like if you're gonna be in a relationship, living together, working together, doing all the things to move forward with your life, like there's really no other way in God's eyes except to be married.
Yeah.
So we went ahead and made that leap, and I will say that my husband, even though I was already on that track, I was already, you know, doing all the things that I should have been doing as far as faith-wise, my husband is really the one who opened up my eyes more that maybe I wasn't always paying attention in Bible class because in religion at school either, because we would talk about things and we would have these morning conversations and our morning prayers together while we were having coffee, and he would tell me these stories from the Bible. We would just be talking about life, like day-to-day life, or what was going on, or how we felt, or you know what we were trying to do with our future. And he would tell me these stories from the Bible, and I'm like, why do I not know that story? Or why does that not ring a bell? Why do I not remember that? And so that was when I knew I really needed to take a deeper dive back into the Bible, or some way to start understanding more about the Bible, and more about what it truly tries to teach us every single day through the scripture. And that's when I decided that I needed a larger community. I had my cousins and Diego and like one friend, and I had always felt fulfilled in that. But I ventured out to a women's group, and that's where I met you, Jesselyn. Mm-hmm. And that same night that we met, you expressed to me that you had started a Bible study And I was just so thrilled, and I knew that this had all led up, like everything that I had been through, especially over like the past 3 years, everything I had done, all the intention that I put into every single day of my life had finally led to a community, and a faith-based community where I could flourish, where I could learn, where I could share, and where I could feel heard, seen, and really just thrive. Like, I've just been feeling really great about how this past year has gone since I've known you. So I guess that's a synopsis, a quick synopsis, but that's pretty much from childhood to now in the synopsis.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely wanted to talk about, how we met, and I mean, I guess I can talk about that a little bit now too. I mean, I'm gonna try not to cry. It's my time of the month, so
yeah.
But
we got this.
I don't know. I actually was listening to a podcast today whenever I was working, and it was obviously just preparing for this and like, okay, what can I learn from Sadie Robb? But the person that she was interviewing, they're now good friends, but they kind of talked about I mean, everyone says that, like, you meet people at the right time, and it's in God's timing. So whenever we met, then you gave me also the opportunity to have a better job when I was looking for one. And then, so you've also done things for me.
Oh, thank you.
So I really appreciate that. And then just being involved in the group, starting it. I know life's been crazy lately.
Yes, definitely.
But you definitely were a big part in also starting, leading the Bible studies, and I've learned a lot from you too. And I think just everything that you share with your background and with your relationship too, I think a lot of people like myself have learned from you as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I know you've kind of talked about a little bit about church. Sorry, I know my dog. I'm going to try to get her to go away. Yeah. Okay, we are back. I had to put my dog up. She somehow got in here. So yeah, very real. So Anna, thank you so much for telling me, a little bit more about your story and your background. You kind of touched on almost everything that I wanted to talk about. So what I'm going to transition to now is 4, I guess, topics, and ask you a little bit about each one. So the first one, I might get really deep fast, is about identity. So where were lies you had to unlearn about yourself?
Oof. Deep. I don't even know where to start. I definitely know where I want to go, though. We grew up very humbly, I will say that. And I think that as far as identity goes, when I moved to Houston and just saw all the possibilities that you could live, I was a little bit overwhelmed, but I was excited by it. And I think for a long time, I've been here now almost 14 years, and I think for a long time I always felt like, oh, I'm just a small town girl, or I'm just a simple girl, or I'm just this, or just a that. And it wasn't until I was working at a large company here in Houston, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago when this happened, and I finally started to gain some confidence. Was I had a woman manager, and she told me one day, you need to stop saying you're just this. It goes with the job, but I don't want to talk about that. But I did use that phrase a lot. Like, I'm just this, like, or I'm just a Midwest girl, like, or I'm just a small town girl, or I'm just a simple girl. Like, all of these different phrases that I would use, but I would always put the word just in front of it, and was belittling myself. And when you speak those words out loud, you're always speaking truth, is what you're supposed to be doing, right? So I was speaking that truth into me, And I was believing the word just that I kept saying about myself. And when she brought that to my attention, I thought about it in the moment. I really, really did. It did hit me in that exact moment. But I have thought about that so many times. I thought about it that night when I went home, very in depth. And then since then, I have thought about that so many times, and I've caught myself saying that. So I think it was that I had to stop leaning on that as like a disability. Mm-hmm. Like that I'm just a small town person, or like I'm just a simple girl. Like, no, actually I'm a very complex woman, and actually I'm a child of God. Like, actually I can go do whatever I want to do. And then when I changed my mindset about that, everything about my life changed. Like, I started to find confidence. I started to find meaning. I started to find trust in God and where he was leading me in my life. And knowing that, guess what? I'm not just this girl. Like, I'm now this very capable woman, and I can do hard things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I had to change about my identity, is that I was constantly looking for an excuse for my identity, or to try on different identities, because I was in a new city and nobody knew me. And each person that I met, I really didn't have my story straight. Like, everything would be a little bit different, or I'm a little bit this or a little bit that, or I'm just this or just that. And then finally I just gained the confidence to say, you know what, like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm about. And maybe I've been a lot of different things in the past, and a lot of different things coming into being a woman and who I am in this new big city. But now I'm not just me. Like, I know confidently who I am, where I come from, and even proud of where I come from now. And that came from also going back as an adult, because I hadn't been back to the small town where I was from in a long time. And even going back to that town just solidified everything that I had been working toward to re-identify myself, I guess. So re-identify or honor the identity, however you want to look at it. But that's what I had to change about my identity, is actually being okay with exactly what my identity was. Yeah. Or is, I guess I should say.
Yeah. And I obviously didn't know you, before. And so all I know is you now. Yeah. Anna. And, I mean, I love you the way you are. So
thank you. I love you too. Yeah.
So I don't want you to think that you have to be anybody else. And that's great that, may have taken a little while for you.
Yeah.
Just like it does, I feel like, a lot of people. But yeah.
I think especially women, just because we have so many expectations and so many different standards. And, there's one standard of, like, mainstream media, social media, that will tell you, like, go be a boss babe, go conquer the world, like, you don't need a man. And then there's the other side telling you, like, no, but you don't need adventure, you just need a man. And it's very confusing and very misleading. So to have confidence in who you are will set the standard of exactly what it is that you should do for your life, because for every woman it's different. Maybe you need to go live your life, maybe you do need to settle down and you need your man, or maybe a little mixture of both. Never hurt anybody.
Yeah. Well, the next topic is faith. I know you kind of touched on it, but what does your relationship with God look like now compared to before?
I think that the way that it looks different now is that it's more individualized. I would say that more than ever before, I'm focused on it as soon as I wake up in the morning, which has been led, which is something I've always been thankful for. As soon as him and I got together, that's something that he implemented in our morning practices, our morning coffee together, is he just instantly opens up whatever book he's reading or the Bible and starts sourcing the Bible or sourcing different stories or scripture that he knows to relate to whatever it is that we're trying to do that day or whatever is going on in our lives. So I think it's just more individualized than ever. I think that before in my life, it was more led by the outside, like whatever environment I was kind of forced to be in, like school or my parents or my grandparents or my great-grandparents, like, or at church, like whatever was being talked about or being praised or being whatever learned about in that aspect was what I thought about it.
Yeah.
But now I kind of get to do it on my own and more personalized in the sense of like literally what I'm doing that day or what I'm doing that week or what our future goals are.
Yeah.
My husband really structures it in a way that it brings us to be one with that scripture or with that story or with God in general. Just praying directly to him for whatever it is that we're thinking about or planning for that week or that day or our future, like I said. But just more individualized, I would say. Yeah.
And then the next topic is purpose. I'm gonna rephrase this. So the way that I have it written down is, how did you start recognizing your purpose, your calling? But I guess I'm curious if you found your purpose and calling, and if so, what you think that is, or just kind of your perspective on that.
Love it. So I remember when I had sort of a meaningless job. It wasn't anything that I was connected to spiritually or really at all. It was just something that I was doing to make money at the time. I was single, and I remember praying to God by myself in my apartment. I was extremely lonely. I hadn't dated anybody or even thought about that in like 3 years. And I remember praying to God, and first I prayed to bring me a career that brought me meaning, where I could help people and where I could thrive. And I remember praying for that. Like, I remember that literal moment when I was sitting there and I was crying. I was in tears saying, I just want to do something that I feel like brings purpose to this world. Like, I want to have an effect. I feel like I can make an effect. I feel like I have the power and the passion to make an effect somewhere, but I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. And then there was a second thought that came behind that was like, well, maybe your passion and your know what to do will come when you have motherhood and when you're a mom. And I was just like, oh my God, why did that thought come into my head? Like, that was just so annoying because I didn't even know where I was at that point. And being a mom was so far away from my self-expectations that I just was a little bit annoyed with that thought that came up during my prayer. But I just kind of wrote it out, and I was like, you know what? I think that the reason why God led me to that thought after I'm asking him for my purpose is because he's going to guide me to my purpose, which will then lead me to my actual purpose, which is being a wife and having children, serving God, serving my husband, serving my children. And I always knew that that would be my plan, just from growing up in the church and knowing how things go. I mean, my great-grandma, my grandma, and my mom were all stay-at-home moms, so they never understood my work ethic or my drive to go and work and find things and ways to make money. They always just kind of relied on their husbands, so they never understood that about me, but they respected it, and that was what was important to me. So I think that my purpose has been fulfilled definitely through God, because there's just no other way that this could have happened. I ended up finding a career path that I do feel passionate about. I do feel like I make an effect, and I do feel like I genuinely help people. So I think that part got fulfilled. And then literally through that, is what led me to live in the area that I was at, be where I was at in that moment exactly to meet my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I've met my husband, I do think that my purpose is to be a wife and a mother. And I haven't found that exact feeling yet because it hasn't happened yet. But we had always agreed since the beginning that we would not have kids until we had a house. We bought a house, I should say. And this year, as you know, we finally built our house and we now live there. So we're just getting things settled down, getting things all how we need it, how we want it. If it was up to my husband, we would already be pregnant, but I'm a little bit more organized than that. So we're just getting some things settled, and then we'll move into the next part of our lives, which I do feel is my true purpose, but I think it was important to me just because of how I grew up and how I lived my early adulthood. I think it was important to me to find my personal purpose in work and in a career, and just to feel like I did accomplish something on my own. Mm-hmm. I wish it could have been different for me. Finding purpose in being a young wife and a young mom and just living that way. I think that ultimately that's how I would have been the most fulfilled, but that's just not how my life played out. And that's not how it was for me. So for me, my path was different. I did need to feel fulfilled with a career and personally with some sort of career driven achievements before I could move into what I do think was always my true purpose, which is motherhood. But there was a lot of lessons that I learned along the way, and a lot of really good mom advice, really good kid advice, just things that I have observed over the years from all of my friends having kids and watching them grow up. I mean, some of my friends have kids now that are 16 years old. You know, so I've watched them raise these children into teenagers and seen some of the things, the unpredictable circumstances that come up in life and how they handled them, and whether that's whether those were the lessons of what to do or some of them were what not to do. I think it was helpful for me to live my truth and my timeline and accept that that was the path for me to bring me into this next stage of true purpose.
And I think with that, it's just gonna, I mean, I think every part of our life has a purpose, and, you know, if you think your purpose and calling is being a mom, I think everything, well, and a better wife, but everything that you've experienced is going to translate to that, and I think that's just going to help you, you know, be a great mom. So
thank you.
I'm excited for that part of your life, but also excited for until now. You know?
I
mean, until then, you know. And then the last section is community, which we've kind of talked about how community has helped you. So I guess in relation to that, how I feel like, well, I mean, I feel like you maybe needed that earlier than you got it. And so what would maybe be some advice for anyone if they're feeling that way, or I don't know, like if you were, what would you have done, I guess, or what kind of advice would you give to people looking for that community, or how important that is?
So, first of all, it is the most important thing. Like, you can be fine by yourself, okay, you like to be at home, doing your thing, watching your shows, whatever. But when you do get out and find the community that you're meant to be with, it is an absolute game changer. It's a game changer for every single aspect of your life, but most importantly because humans in general, we're just not meant to be alone. A lot of things can happen scientifically, literally biologically, with our bodies if we're too alone for too long. So I think that I was just so focused for so long on my goals, and I thought that I had a community because it was small, even though it really wasn't giving me what I needed.
Yeah.
I knew I always needed more, but I was like, oh, I have people, like, it's fine. And I pretty much forced myself to go out and find community because I knew that it was getting to the point where I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. I am a grown woman. Why do I not have, like, a friend group? Like, I have family and, like, one friend. Like, that's it. Like, why do I not have an actual group? And I will say I did have a group, which this is something I do want to just go back a little bit. So I did have a large friend group here in Houston, but when my life elevated, I just didn't want to be around that friend group anymore. Not that anything against them or their lifestyle or who they are as people. I think that they are beautiful, great people with amazing things going on in their lives. Like, I still talk to all of them, and it's not that I hold anything against them. It's just that I had elevated to a different time in my life, a different... I don't know how to describe it.
I don't want to say era.
Yeah, new era, exactly. It was just a different era, and the things that we did together and the things that we called fun just weren't fun to me anymore. And I just needed a different community.
Yeah.
And I let that go too long without being proactive about finding that community. And it's not something that I regret, because exactly when I decided to take that leap is when I found a really great community. But I just think that my advice that I would give is to be more proactive about finding that community. Like, if you ever feel that feeling, don't let it resonate there. Don't let yourself just drown in that, every week or every 2 weeks, like, be sad and, like, thinking to yourself, like, why do I not have more community, or why don't I have people in my life that I like to do things with or have common interests with, or what is it about me that makes it that I don't have a community? Because it's definitely not about you. Everybody has something to bring to the table. Everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has something that other people will benefit from, even if it's directly or subliminally. Mm-hmm. I think that somebody can teach you anything. So I would say put yourself out there in a way, even if you're not comfortable with it. Like, for instance, I mentioned earlier that, like, I've never been real big or real comfortable with social media, but I did go to social media to look up groups of interest that I was interested in. Mm-hmm. And so I found local women's groups, local this group, local that, and just started looking at the different events that they were offering or that were happening in my community, in my area, so that it would make it more easy for me to get involved because I was close by and we kind of already had, like, shared interests. Yeah. Or, things that they were doing in their events or in their groups were things that I would like to partake in. Yeah. So it didn't feel like a task, mm-hmm. or like pressure or whatever. But I will say that when I went to the women's group that I met you at, my husband dropped me off there, and I probably told you this already, but I was in the car and I was, like, pretty pumped up and, like, pretty excited. I, like, felt confident in my clothes and, like, going and everything. And we pulled up and I just saw all of these women walking in by themselves. And so this is the advice I would give to somebody going by themselves to an event where you may see a lot of women walking in with big groups of friends, or at least one friend, and that's all I saw. I mean, I was sitting in the car with my husband for probably 15 minutes just talking to him, and every single girl, it was a theme night. That's how I knew that all of these girls were going to the event. I wasn't just trying to feel bad for myself, but I saw all these women walking in with the theme, and I did not see one girl walking in by herself. And it hit me, and I just started bawling my eyes out, and I told my husband, I'm like, I can't do this. Like, nobody's here by themselves. I'm going to be the only girl by myself. Like, this is never going to work. Like, nobody's going to want to talk to me because I came by myself and I'm just a loser and I don't know why I'm an adult and that doesn't have any friends and this is just ridiculous and I should just give up. And of course, my husband, being the just perfect husband that he is, completely reinstilled my faith in God and just my faith in myself and my purpose and my intent in going there that day. And I walked in. I did not.
Didn't you say he prayed for you?
Yes,
right?
of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He talked to me for a minute. He said, "Just grab my hand. Let's pray. I know that you're here for a reason. I know that your intent is purposeful, and I know that this is God driven." And we prayed, and I just said, "Okay, I'm going in." And he's like, "All right, clean up your face first, though." And I went in, and literally, I did not even sit down in the chair before you, Jesselyn, invited me to sit with you and your friends at that table. And that was just, if there's anything in my life that I could say was a direct connection or reflection of what God can do for you, it was that moment. Because I quite literally had just had a breakdown, asked God for something, and before I could even sit down, I received that blessing. And that means the world to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, earlier I said that I was talking or listening to a podcast, and that's kind of what they said, or one of the girls on there said, I was praying every day for friends, but then doing nothing about it,
Yep.
So I think that that's what
Absolutely.
when you have to be proactive. And on the other end of you saying, you were looking for groups with people that you have interests in, and that's one thing about, Radiant in Him, like the Bible study that we have Houston, Woodlands, and now Dallas groups. And there are, I want to say in the Woodlands, almost 200 people.
Yeah.
Maybe about 100 in Houston. They don't all come, but I know there have been thoughts of let's make a smaller group me, whatever, for just the people that regularly come. But that's why I don't, because just like you and other people I know, they're watching from afar. It's gonna take, where there's an event that we do that they're really interested in, like the Pilates event or anything that makes them come, or when they finally, also I know Houston and Woodlands are big too. If it's something that's close to them, where it's more convenient, then they'll be more inclined to come. So I think even if one step would be, if you're in the Houston area or Woodlands area, is joining our group me, and then if there's anything, events that we do, to come whenever the time's right for you to come.
Absolutely. Well, and also we have to understand that people have lives.
Yeah.
They have jobs, they have family, they have responsibilities, they have children.
Yeah.
They have husbands who work, who have the same exact responsibilities, so there's always going to be something in the way. But I think that's why the events are so fun and so purposeful, because you plan them in advance. You put them on the calendar in those group me's, so girls can just watch. Watch for events that pop up that meet their interests and that meet their time restraints, and then jump in when they can. And I know that we've had girls that have came to events and been like, "Man, I've been in this group for 6 months, and this is the first one I've been able to get to. I'm so excited and thankful to be here." Or they get a little mom's night out, or even several times that multiple women have brought their children to our events or to our Bible studies, and that's even more fun. We get to have fun with the kids and visit with them and get to know that part of those women too. So yes, I agree with you. I don't think we would ever need to change how we communicate with the group. It's an open invite. Yes, we have hundreds of members, but that is the purpose, for it to be an open community and to fit everybody's needs when it comes to building that community in whatever way they need to do that.
But I think also just reiterating or basically repeating what you said, I think that's important. Just seek those out, be proactive. Well, we are almost pretty much done, if you are. Yeah, I mean, everything we've pretty much talked about. So just wanted to, and I mean, kind of the advice is what you give about community, but what would you say to someone walking through something similar, maybe that you have walked through?
I would say be the woman that you envision in your future. So you can be whoever you are today, and that is perfectly okay. But however you envision yourself in the future, you can become that and you can live that life. You just have to implement it, but you have to know exactly what that looks like for you before you can take the steps to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to God and envision that future. Speak truth in your prayer with understanding exactly where you want to go, and ask for that, like kind of what we say in sales. I know this is totally off topic, but what we say in sales is ask for the sale. So I would implement that exactly in your lives. If I'm giving advice, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're at right now. You can ask God for the sale. Ask God for the woman that you want to be. And when you come to terms with exactly what that looks like, you can start implementing the baby steps or the big steps to make those changes and become the woman that you envision yourself being, walking with Christ and growing in your life and into your womanhood. Because we only have one life, so don't let it pass you by, and just trust God.
Yeah, and I love that. That was honestly a perfect way to end this, because that's really all, what Daughter talks about, is just talking, real conversations, talking about our identity, faith, what your purpose is, and then ways that you are learning to, be a woman of God. And I think I said in the introduction is like, we are his daughter first. And so just thinking of, him, especially for people who maybe not have the best, father-daughter relationship,
right.
Or maybe your father isn't here any longer, you could always look to him for that. But then also surrounding yourself with other people, but really just, trying to do what we can to walk, more steadfast in our faith. So before we close out, do you mind if I pray for
Of course.
us? Okay.
Yes.
And hold your hand, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to hold my own hand.
Okay. Dear God, I just thank you so much for bringing Anna on my podcast and in my life. She really is such, such a great friend, and I'm so excited for our friendship. Thank you so much for her coming and sharing her story. I think that it's going to touch a lot of people, and I'm excited to have her back one day to share more, maybe a different topic. But thank you so much for having her. I pray for her purpose to be fulfilled as a mother, hopefully one day, and I'm very excited for this podcast, and thank you so much, Anna, for being here.
Thank you so much.
Pray.
Thank
Amen.
you, God. Amen. Oh, I love you.